All right, let me start with something that ought to bother you. You've known since you were a child that fire burns. It's one of the first rules of reality you ever learned. Don't touch the stove. Don't play with matches. Fire hurts. And the funny thing is, nobody ever explains why. We're all perfectly satisfied with the answer, because it's hot, which is a little bit like saying a joke is funny, because you laughed. It's true, but it doesn't explain a thing. Here's the puzzle that should make you uneasy. A flame is just gas. You can't stub your toe on it. You can't pick it up. It doesn't even really have a shape. And yet that shimmering, ghostly thing can tear your skin apart so badly that it changes your life forever. Meanwhile, right next to it, you might have a piece of metal glowing red hot, or a pot of boiling water, or even sunlight pouring down from 93 million miles away, and all of these things burn you too. Same word, same pain, completely different situations. So already something is fishy. Because if burning were just about fire, then boiling water shouldn't burn you. But it does. If it were just about flames, then a hot oven rack shouldn't burn you. But it does. And if it were just about temperature, then why doesn't a hot room burn you the way a flame does? Why can you put your hand in a 100-degree sauna and survive, but touch a 1,000-degree flame for a fraction of a second and you're done? There's a contradiction hiding here, and I love contradictions, because they're like little bells ringing in the back of your head saying, "You don't understand this yet. Let me make it worse." Imagine a world where nobody ever told you that fire burns. You've never been warned. You've never seen it before. You're just a curious creature wandering around, and you see this beautiful dancing light. It flickers, it moves, it looks alive. You stick your hand into it, and suddenly reality explodes. Pain floods your nervous system. Your skin starts to fail, and afterward, long after the flame is gone, the damage remains. Now ask yourself the most innocent question in the universe: what just happened? Not what did I do wrong, not how do I avoid this next time, but what physically occurred, molecule by molecule, that turned that elegant glow into suffering. Because here's the thing, nobody tells you fire doesn't want to hurt you. It doesn't have intentions. It isn't angry. It isn't violent in the human sense. It's doing something extraordinarily ordinary, something that happens everywhere in the universe all the time, and your body just happens to be exquisitely vulnerable to it. And that's the real mystery. If you go around saying fire burns because it's hot, you're using a label as an explanation. Heat is just another word. You might as well say it burns because it burns. The real question is, what is heat doing to you? Why does a certain kind of motion at a certain scale make nerves scream and proteins unravel and cells panic? Let me put it another way. If I take a very tiny hammer and tap your skin gently once a second, nothing happens. But if I take trillions of even tinier hammers, so small you can't see them, and they all start smashing into your skin at ridiculous speeds, suddenly you're in trouble. You'd probably call that burning. But now notice no flame required. So now we're getting somewhere strange. Burning isn't really about fire at all. Fire is just one of many ways the universe can deliver a particular kind of chaos to your body. And chaos, by the way, is a polite word. Here's another oddity. Fire can be different colors: yellow, blue, orange, white. Some flames are gentle enough to hover over your hand for a moment without hurting you much, while others are so aggressive they'll damage you before you even realize you're in danger. A candle flame looks calm. A blowtorch looks angry. But they're both flames. Same name. Totally different behavior. So what's the flame actually doing? It's not a thing. It's an event. That's already unsettling. You're not being burned by an object. You're being burned by a process. A dance. A chemical argument happening so violently that your body gets caught in the middle, and the pain is the punchline your nervous system delivers after the fact, shouting, "Don't let that happen again!" But pain is late to the party. By the time you feel it, the damage has already begun. Now here's where it gets deliciously weird. If you zoom in close enough, really close, smaller than anything you can see, the flame disappears. There's no fire at that scale. There are just molecules colliding, breaking apart, recombining, and flinging energy around like children who've had too much sugar. Oxygen molecules crashing into fuel molecules. Bonds snapping, new bonds forming. Energy being released not politely, but all at once. And your skin, poor thing, is made of molecules too. It doesn't get a vote. It's just sitting there organized in a very careful, delicate way, when suddenly it's bombarded by this energetic frenzy. Structures that took your body years to build are ripped apart in milliseconds, and your nerves interpret that molecular catastrophe as pain. So the question, why does fire burn, is secretly asking something much deeper. Why is life so fragile in a universe that's so energetic? Why does a certain threshold of molecular excitement turn from warm and pleasant into destructive and terrifying, and even more unsettling? Why does the universe allow such a beautiful thing as fire to exist at all if it's so perfectly designed to undo us? You see, once you start pulling on this thread, you can't stop. Fire isn't just about campfires or candles or accidents in kitchens. Fire is chemistry running downhill. It's the universe cashing in stored energy and spraying it outward. And you, standing there with your curious little hand, are made of structures that only work if the universe behaves itself, which it doesn't. So when you ask why fire burns, you're not really asking about flames. You're asking why the universe is the way it is, why order is temporary, why energy likes to move, and why your body, this marvelous, intricate machine, exists right on the edge of being torn apart by the very processes that make stars shine. And once you notice that you can't unsee it, fire stops being a thing you avoid and starts being a clue about motion, energy, time, and the strange bargain life makes with physics just to exist for a little while. Think of fire not as a creature or a substance, but as a kind of conversation between molecules. That's what it really is. You've got fuel, wood, gasoline, paper, and oxygen from the air. On their own, they're fairly polite. They coexist without much fuss at room temperature. But once you give them a little nudge, say a spark or a match, suddenly the conversation turns heated. Not heated in the sense of a debate, but literally energy starts flying around, bonds break, and new bonds form faster than you can follow. Now here's where it gets fun. When molecules react like this, they don't just release a whisper of energy, they release a burst. That burst propagates, bumping into neighboring molecules, telling them, "Hey, join the party!" And just like a contagious laugh in a quiet room, the reaction spreads. That's why a match can light a log and a spark can light an entire forest. The fire grows because the energy released from one reaction fuels the next. It's self-propagating. You didn't have to push each molecule individually. The first nudge did the trick. Energy does the work for you. And notice something delightful: the flame doesn't have a center, that's it. The flame is everywhere the reaction is happening. It's not a solid object. You can poke at it and it rearranges itself. You can tilt a candle and the flame leans. You blow on it and it flickers. It's not obeying a ruler, it's obeying the invisible rules of energy flow, collisions and momentum. And isn't that amazing? Something so alive, looking, comes from nothing but molecules obeying their simple little rules. No mind, no intention. Just pure curiosity-driven chaos made visible. Here's a little trick you can try safely. Well, sort of. Take a candle flame, hold your hand above it, not too close. You can feel the heat. Not burn, yet heat, but warmth moving upward. Now consider this: the flame itself is cooler at its edges than at its center, and the part you see dancing is really the hottest gases glowing from the collisions of molecules. The visible flame is only the tip of the iceberg. Most of what's going on, the energy being flung around, is invisible. That's one of those aha moments that makes you love physics. What we see is often a tiny fraction of reality, a shadow of a much wilder dance. And speaking of dancing, consider a forest fire. People see towering walls of flame consuming acres of trees and say, "Wow, fire is huge and terrifying." But if you zoom in, it's the same thing you see on a candle: countless molecules colliding, energy being transferred, reactions propagating like a wave. The scale changes, but the rules don't. It's fractal in a way. The same behavior at the smallest and largest scales. Isn't that curious? The universe doesn't care about your human perspective. The same molecular chatter that makes a candle flicker also ignites forests, and even stars. Come to think of it, stars are just nuclear fire on steroids. Now, here's a part that always makes people's heads spin. We usually think burning is destructive, bad, and it can be. But it's also the universe's way of redistributing energy. That's how chemistry moves forward. That's how matter reshapes itself. The flame isn't malevolent, it's just telling a story. Energy wants to go from here to there, and if you're in the way, tough luck. And your hand, being an exquisitely structured collection of molecules, feels it in the most dramatic way possible. So fire is intimate with life. Life itself is just a delicate arrangement of molecules carefully preventing spontaneous burning inside your body. Every time you breathe, metabolize, or move, your cells are performing controlled chemical reactions, not unlike the molecules in a flame, but organized so they don't self-destruct. Your very existence is a dance on the knife edge between energetic chaos and structured order. And that's what makes fire so mesmerizing. It's like holding up a mirror to life itself: the same rules, the same energy, the same relentless motion, but here, without careful organization, You see the universe doing its work in a way that is fast, visible, and a little terrifying. Think about sparks in a campfire. They leap, glow for a second, and vanish. That's a perfect metaphor. Molecules release energy in bursts, burn brightly, and then disappear, leaving a slightly changed world behind. That's the essence of combustion. The world changes with every reaction. The wood isn't wood anymore. The oxygen isn't oxygen anymore. It's a story written in heat and light, molecules in motion. And every time you add a spark, you start the story all over again. Here's something subtle. You might imagine that fire is chaotic, random. But it isn't. There's a hidden order, a logic to which molecules react first, how energy propagates, and how the flame moves. That hidden order is why flames behave predictably enough to light candles, cook food, or even forge tools. But that order is delicate. Disturb it just a bit, and the flame dies or explodes. It's both predictable and unpredictable, a little like life itself, or the weather, or anything you thought you understood until you looked closely. And that's why fire has always fascinated humans. Not just because it's useful, but because it's a tiny, blazing window into the rules of the universe. You can hold it in your hands, shape it with tools, watch it flicker in the night, but you can never own it. You can't fully control the way molecules want to behave. You can guide them, but their energy is their own. That's where the magic and the danger comes from. By now, if you've been following closely, you might start to feel a shift. Burning is no longer a simple, moment. It's a story of energy, motion, and the delicate choreography of molecules. Fire isn't a creature, it's a message that the universe is alive in its own way, constantly reshaping itself, occasionally taking us along for the ride, and yet this is just scratching the surface. We haven't even talked about why those molecules release energy in the first place, or why certain bonds contain more energy than others, or why some fuels burn blue and some yellow. Those are the really juicy bits. That's where things start to get counterintuitive, and where the fun begins, the part that makes you sit back, scratch your head, and think, wait a minute, the universe is playing tricks on me again. If you're ready, the next layer is where we really start peeling back the curtain, getting into the hidden principles and paradoxes that make fire tick, the stuff that seems obvious once you see it, but almost never occurs to you on your own. Now we're getting to the heart of it, the part where things start feeling a little counterintuitive, even magical if you look closely. Because once you really understand why fire burns, it stops being about flames at all and starts being about energy, order, and the rules that the universe refuses to bend. Let's go back to the molecules. You've got fuel, right? Wood, paper, gasoline, whatever. And oxygen floating around. These molecules are sitting there politely, minding their own business. Nothing happens. They could sit like that forever. You light a match and suddenly, pow. Why? What changed? It's not just that heat made them move faster. Molecules are always jiggling, always bouncing around. At room temperature, the energy of their jiggling isn't enough to break the bonds that hold them together. But a spark or a small flame gives them just enough extra energy to start a reaction. That reaction releases energy. That released energy nudges neighboring molecules over the same threshold, and the process spreads. Here's the first counterintuitive truth: fire is self-feeding. You don't have to pour more energy in to keep it going. Once it starts, the chemical energy stored in the fuel itself is enough to sustain the flame. The heat from burning wood doesn't just vanish. It's being carefully recycled to break more chemical bonds. The flame isn't consuming energy blindly. It's orchestrating a microscopic domino effect, a chain reaction that propagates through the material. But here's the part that trips people up: the reaction itself lowers the total energy of the system. That's right. Breaking bonds and forming new ones doesn't just move energy around, it releases it. The molecules in wood and oxygen start in a higher energy state after combustion. The products, carbon dioxide, water vapor, ash, are in a lower energy state. The energy difference has to go somewhere, and it goes into motion, light, and heat. That's what we see as fire. Now think about that for a second. The universe is basically downsizing its energy, moving from a more tense state to a calmer, lower energy state. And fire is the visible footprint of that process. It's the universe telling us, in bright, dancing colors, I'm balancing my books. And yet, that same process is what can destroy your skin in an instant. Beauty and danger inseparable. Here's another twist. The color of the flame is a direct message from the molecules. Blue flames. That's hot, efficient combustion. Yellow. That's soot particles glowing as they're heated to incandescence. The flame is literally telling you what's happening at the molecular level. You just have to know how to read it. And then there's flame shape. Ever notice a candle flame leans, flickers, stretches? That's not the flame having a personality, it's air currents, diffusion of gases, and the path of least resistance for heat. The flame isn't solid, it's a region of ongoing reactions. And the most counterintuitive part, the visible flame, is not the hottest part. The center, just above the tip, is where molecules are smashing together with maximum energy. The glowing edges are cooler. So your eyes lie to you, the beautiful yellow licks at the air are actually less energetic than the invisible chaos above them. And here's a deep one: fire is not magic, but it feels magical because it embodies irreversible change. The universe has this rule: energy spreads out. Order tends to break down unless work is done to maintain it. That's called entropy. Combustion is entropy in action. The energy stored in chemical bonds wants to disperse. When fire happens, it's just entropy rearranging the deck, shuffling energy from a concentrated form to dispersed forms. Every crackle, every spark is the universe leveling the playing field. So fire isn't just hot. It's a messenger about the flow of energy. And it teaches us something remarkable: your own body exists in delicate defiance of the same laws. Each cell in your body has to control energy flows, keep bonds intact, manage heat, or it would spontaneously burn from the inside. You are a little controlled flame, if you think about it, using just enough energy to stay alive, but not so much that you destroy yourself. And let me slip in another paradox that will really twist your intuition. The more oxygen you have, the faster the reaction, the hotter the flame, the brighter it burns. But add too much oxygen in the wrong way, and the flame behaves unpredictably. Too little and it sputters. Fire is exquisitely sensitive to its environment, perfectly obedient to the laws of physics, yet able to behave in ways that seem almost alive. And yet, despite all that chaos, it's utterly predictable if you know the rules: the positions and velocities of molecules, the energies of bonds, the diffusion of gases. Here's where I get a little giddy. This is why chemists and physicists can actually calculate flames. You can write down the reactions, the energies, the heat transfer, and predict flame speed, temperature, and color. What looks like a dancing, mysterious entity can be reduced to math, to the precise choreography of molecules. And yet, even when you know everything theoretically, the human experience of fire, the awe, the danger, the beauty, never leaves you. You're looking at the same equations that govern stars and explosions, and at the same time you're mesmerized by the simple pleasure of a candle flicker. Fire is a bridge between scales. Molecules on one side, life and human experience on the other. You can trace it from quantum interactions breaking and forming bonds, all the way to the way a forest fire reshapes a landscape. That connection is astonishing, and it's precisely why understanding fire is so profoundly satisfying. If you follow these principles, you start seeing combustion everywhere. Not just flames, but metabolism, decay, even the sun. The same rules applied differently everywhere. And the more you notice, the more you realize that fire isn't a simple hazard. It's a clue. It's the universe speaking in light and heat, teaching you how energy moves, how order decays, how life exists precariously against chaos. Now, if you've been paying attention, you might notice that fire burning, stars shining, metabolism running, and entropy spreading. All of these are just energy looking for lower energy states. They're different stories of the same underlying truth. And that brings us to the most amazing perspective. Fire is not just a reaction, it's a lens to see the universe's machinery in motion.